of the children tonight. It's my turn.
But as Mandela morphed into a political leader, that family became the first casualty of the colonists.
All of us longed to have those moments, you know, when you can sit on a couch, maybe rest your head on your father. We didn't have those moments.
Mandela's first marriage ended in divorce when Makaziwe was just 4 years old. But soon after, he would find a true soulmate, Winnie.
This was one of the great African love stories of all time. From the moment that he meets her, he just thinks she is the most glorious girl.
They fell unbelievably in love, but almost from the get-go, he was having to go underground. They managed to make 2 beautiful daughters in 2 years before he was then arrested and put on trial and then sent to prison for life.
Winnie's father at the wedding made a toast and said, you know, my daughter, you're marrying a jailbird. And they all laughed about it, but of course he was in prison a couple of years later.
They would not be allowed contact with him for 8 years, rare visits after that. Winnie became Mandela's voice, the personification of him and his movement. And of course, she became just as much a target of authorities.
He often said to me that Winnie had it much harder than he did. You know, Mandela spent, in all his 27 years in prison, spent 1 night in solitary confinement. Winnie spent a year in solitary confinement, all of the time having to look after their 2 daughters.
Those girls were named Zinani and Zinzi.
Prisoners were not allowed to see children under 16, and given that Winnie Mandela's children were both very little girls when he went to jail, that meant he had no contact with them.
But his older daughter, Makaziwe, was able to visit her father in prison.
I expected to hug my dad and everything else. I couldn't. It was a glass window. We kissed on the glass window. We spoke through a telephone.
I think one of the deepest regrets that he has is his failure as a husband, as a father, as a family man because of all of those years in prison. I mean, he's a very domestic fellow. He loves children.
While in jail, Mandela would try to show that love the only way he could.
He made a tremendous effort to communicate with his children through the letters. Every birthday, you would get a beautiful card. And every card would say, I love you.
So many years passed.